Welcome back. This is Wake Up Sierra Leone here on AYV television and radio. And let's apologize again for the technical glitches this morning. We know it's been quite uncomfortable to our audience. We apologize for that, and we don't take your time for granted. Now, we encourage your feedback into the program. Please drop a comment or question on our Facebook page, AYV News. On Zoom now, we have Tamba Momoh, former Deputy Auditor General, Audit Service Sierra Leone. He's on the Zoom to respond to allegations of third-party interference, failure to audit Freetown City Council, leakage of documents, and the controversies surrounding the Tribunal Report, among other issues that may come up. Tamba Momoh, good morning. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Good morning to you.
Before we delve into this conversation, let's be clear. Who are you representing in this interview? Is it just you as an individual, or are you representing both yourself and Lara Taylor Pias?
No, I'm representing myself. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for clarifying that. Let's get to understand, what was your work at Audit Service Sierra Leone? Yes, it was Deputy Auditor General, but what were the specific, what was the job description of the Deputy Auditor General?
Thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation. So the Audit Service is structured in such a way where you have the Auditor General supported by, according to the 2014 Act, as many deputies as are required. So the structure that we had in place up to the point of my suspension on the 11th of November was that we are 4 in number as deputies. Myself, I was responsible for what we classified as special audits, meaning I had a number of audit clients who were departments, the Office of the President, Parliament, the Judiciary, Immigration, the Police, and a number of those. I was also responsible for performance audit, or some refer to it as value for money audits. I did real-time audits, so this is where we have an emergency, like when we had the Ebola, when we had COVID, when we have emergency events or activities, I will do what is real-time audit. I will also do investigations. I have done such investigations before, for instance, in the use of visa stickers by our embassies and high commissions. I will also do anything that the Auditor General assigned to me in responsibility to support as Auditor General. So there's me, then there is a colleague responsible for, it used to be public enterprises, all the state-owned enterprises commissions. Another colleague responsible for the audit of ministries, all 20+ ministries and all local administrations. And that includes both the offices of chiefdom councils, as well as city councils and district councils. And then finally, there's a colleague who was in charge of administration. So she was the deputy in charge of administration, more like, in our kind of speak, we'll say, staff partner. So she will look after HR, finance, human resources, and all that kind of stuff. So that's how we were structured. Okay.
That you got the job as Deputy Auditor General meant that you must have been trained, licensed and qualified, as the accounting field specifies. What was your training? What is the standard procedure of how you execute auditing?
So when the position of Deputy Auditor General, it was just advertised as Deputy Auditor General. It did not specify what would be, what area of work you'll be in charge of. When it was advertised, the requirements were that you should have a substantial experience in accounting, that you should have had some management experience, etc., etc. But in terms of my own qualifications, I belong to 3 professional accountancy bodies. My local professional accountancy body is the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sierra Leone, which I'm a member of. I am also a member of the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants here in the UK. I am a member of the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners, and I also carry some other qualifications here and there. Now, to be an auditor, there are 2 things we normally say, there are 2 things involved. You should have the competence and you should have the integrity to be able to carry out your work. And both of those I have, and I have shown that over the years in the way I have conducted myself and the way I have conducted business and carry out my work. So it was not strictly that you have to be a professional accountant to be, but you must have certain kind of experience that relates to audit. And in my case, I have all the experiences as well as the professional qualifications to match it as well.
Thank you for that information, Tamba. Back to my question, what is the standard procedure of executing audit process?
Okay, so audits are guided by standards, in our case, and in particular in this case. So we belong to the Office of the Auditor General of every country is referred to as the Supreme Audit Institution, SAI, S-A-I. Now, every country will have to adopt a certain standard or write their own standard that will guide the way they carry out their audits. In the case of Sierra Leone and with many other countries in the world, we don't have the capacity to start writing our own standards from scratch. So there are international standards that have been written by a global body like our UN equivalent body called the International Organization of Supreme Audit Institutions, called INTOSAI, that have written standards. Now, the option you have as Auditor General of your country is to either produce your own standards or take the INTOSAI standards, which we refer to as the ESAIs. When you do that, you are more or less laying a framework as to how audits will be conducted. Public sector audits, let me just be clear, how public sector audit will be conducted in your country. So in Sierra Leone, long year before I joined the Audit Service in 2009, the Auditor General made the point that we, as Audit Service Sierra Leone, we have adopted the ESAIs. These are the standards that have been written and are maintained, updated by the INTOSAI umbrella body that we have. So those are the standards that guide us. Now, there are different types depending on the kind of audits you're doing. There are different types depending on the circumstances you're faced with. But there is a standard almost for anything and everything that you're dealing with when it comes to audit. In the same way, we have standards for accountants. These are the preparers of financial statements. These are accounting standards, we call them. So there are auditing standards and there are accounting standards. The accounting standards will guide the accountants as to, depending on the standard they have adopted, I am aware that the Accountant General, who has the powers according to the Public Financial Management Act, has adopted what we call IPSAS cash. I won't explain the details, but it's a standard that basically recognizes accounting under a cash regime or under a cash management system. So when you ask about standards, yes, we do have standards both for audit and for accounting and also corporate governance and other things. So the standards that have guided Audit Service Sierra Leone are the ESAIs. And obviously the standards will also tell you that you should bear in mind your own laws, your national laws, because a standard is a guide, whereas a law is a binding arrangement. So yes, to answer your question, that's how we, these are the things that guide us, the standards that we live by.
Tamba, during your time as Deputy Auditor General, what led you to send emails to hotels probing into receipts for whatever reason surrounding the office of the President?
This is a very loaded question. I don't know how much time you're giving me, but I will take my time to explain it. Excuse me. So first of all, I am the audit partner responsible for the audit of the Office of the President. What that means, according to ISI 1140, it means I take ultimate responsibility for that audit. However, I don't go myself and sit with the auditors permanently throughout the stay on client premises. In this specific instance, we sent out an engagement letter, which is the letter that normally commences the audit engagement, around May in 2021. This was in reference to the financial year that had just ended in 2020, in which case January to December 2020. So we sent out an audit engagement letter. Now, the Office of the President currently does not prepare financial statements. What people will refer to in the old days for understanding purpose, they don't have a profit and loss account, a balance sheet, a cash flow statement, or whatever. So the audits that we conduct for them, Audit Service conducts mainly 3 types of audits. I have mentioned already that I do value for money audit, which is called performance audit at the Audit Service Sierra Leone. We also do compliance audit, and we do financial statement audit. In the case of the Office of the President, it is a compliance audit. What is compliance audit? As the name implies, it's simply whether or not in the management of that office, the officers that were in charge of the management of the resources of the office, they have complied with certain laws, certain standards, certain regulations. So we go and test compliance. That's what we do. In this particular instance, there is a standard, so there is a law with regards to interest. What is interest? Interest is when you are given an amount of money for a project, an activity, or anything that you want to do, and for you to come back later, at a later date, and retire how you have used that money. That is what we call in Sierra Leone interest. Some people call it advance cash. So you are expected, according to the PFM Act, when you are given an interest, to retire it. To retire means to come and give a detailed account of what you have done with the money that you have taken. In the case of the Office of the President, and this has always been the case, it has been in most of our reports where it has been observed, whenever His Excellency the President is traveling, someone takes responsibility for his upkeep. Everybody else, other than His Excellency the President, is paid a per diem. The President does not get paid a per diem. Let me just make this clear. A per diem is an amount of money that we pay when people are public officers and they're going on public assignments so that they can look after themselves. They don't have to come and retire anything for per diem because it's not an interest. It's given to them to cover their subsistence, cover their accommodation, and whatever else out of pocket or incidental expenses that they will have to meet whilst they are attending to government business, whilst they are attending to business of the country. The President does not get paid a per diem. An amount of money, the practice has been, since I joined the Audit Service in 2009, what I have seen, the practice has been an amount of money is estimated and taken by the State Chief of Protocol, mostly, to ensure that all of the President's needs are met. This is our President, you have to remember. He has to be looked after in a foreign country. His accommodation, his hotel, you cannot give, the reason why we don't give a President per diem. Per diem I have not seen any rate more than 600 pounds a day or 600 euros a day. If the president goes out, are we saying that he cannot, if you give him per diem, that means he should only stay in a hotel where he pays X or Y? No. So we understand. They take this amount of money and they are supposed to come back and return a retirement according to the PFM Act. We did not write that PFM Act at the Audit Service Sierra Leone. It was written by the Ministry of Finance, it was sent to Parliament, and it was approved by Parliament with whatever adjustment or amendments. So in this instance, in 2020, the President made a number of travels. The scope, in the case of the President, or the personal assistant to the First Lady, are responsible personally, according to the PFM Act, for retiring this money. So they should ensure that they bring back retirement. And the Finance Act is very clear. There are only 3 things you can retire with. Number 1, monies that you have expended, you should bring evidence that you have expended them, receipts. Number 2, monies that you have not expended, you should bring them back. Bring the cash back that you have not used. And number 3, if you are given invoices and you don't have enough money to pay them off, bring those invoices back. The state will settle them. Those are the only 3 ways you can retire. No theory, no explanation. The law is very clear. So when the auditors went there in 2021, looking at transactions in 2020, they discovered that there were a number of interests that were taken by the scope for and on behalf of the upkeep of the president. Those monies, the scope did not provide the scope did not provide the detail, the 3 items that you should bring as retirement. So an audit query was raised when the auditors were in the field. By the way, I went to that audit during the opening conference meeting. This is where we sit down with the client and say what we are going to do. I was there in attendance, and I regularly visited the teams, as I will always do with my teams, just to see how they are with what they are doing. They issued queries. What are those? When an auditor is on your premises conducting an audit and discovers non-compliance of some sort, they can write you a letter, a note, and say, please explain why you have done this and not done it this way. If you don't deal with those queries and the auditors leave and they return back to the office after they have concluded, in fact, when they conclude, I will come again, and I don't recall whether I did for this, but either myself or the head of the team will come and lay bare on the table all the observations that we have made whilst the audit was carrying on that have not been cleared and resolved. After that, the auditors will go back to the office, and then they will write a draft report. They will send it to the client. That is what happened in this case. And they will identify those things that they had raised that have not been cleared, and those things that they have not yet raised, but whilst in the office, they picked them up from the audit file.
So this leads us to, how did you end up embarrassing the presidency by sending emails to those hotels to verify who now information is that they also responded saying that not only were some of those receipts fake, but they would also like to press charges for forgery?
I'm taking my time to explain the audit process to you. And I think it's really important that I lay this foundation up to the point of where we are. We have made some progress. Bear with me. So the draft report will be issued by the audit office. In this case, I will normally sign it and send it to the client. The client has 15 days within which to respond to our audit queries. And in this case, the Office of the President responded. In their response, on the issue of unretired interest, they said that the retirement details were there, but the gentleman who was, or the officer, don't remember, the officer that was in charge of the retirement details was not on seat, but he has now returned, and therefore those documents are available. So we dispatched the audit team again to go to the Office of the President. This is second time now. They went on what we call verification visits. What are we verifying? We are verifying what they have said in their response. To say, in this particular instance, we have the document that you're looking for. We are sorry that the person who was in charge of those documents was not in the office, but is now here. Come and collect the documents and look at them. So my team went there and they looked at the documents and they wrote a verification report, which they brought to me. That verification report said that they have seen the receipts, they have seen the documents, and they are happy with them, and they have closed this issue. This is a very important comment I'm making. My audit team that went to do the verification came back to me with a verification report and a verification file. By the way, everything has to be supported by evidence in audit. ISA 500, very clear. When I looked at, I am the last reviewer. I told you earlier on, I am the audit partner. I have the final say in this matter. If there's anything I need to bring to the attention of the Auditor General, I will do so. If he satisfies my technical requirement, that is the matter solved. So I went through the audit file that they brought, that they call the verification file, that supported the conclusion they made to say that there is nothing else to talk on this matter. When I looked at the receipts that they said they have looked at and they have cleared the issue, I had concerns about the receipts. So what did I do? Because of the concerns I had, I went straight to my standard.
Let's understand, why did you have concerns with the receipts?
Okay, when I read the standard will tell you why I acted the way I acted. Let me kindly read the standard. This is ISA 240 or ISI 1240. I don't want to go into the technicalities. That's how it is. Paragraph A9. Am I allowed to share on Zoom, on your Zoom platform?
Unfortunately, even if you share it, the viewers would not have access to it. So just read it out, please.
All right, let me read it. I'll just read it. It's a short paragraph. It says, an audit performed in accordance with ISAs rarely involves the authentication of documents, nor is the auditor trained or expected to be an expert in such authentication. However, when the auditor identifies conditions that causes the auditor to believe that a document may not be authentic, or that terms in a document have been modified but not disclosed to the auditor, possible procedures to investigate further may include: 1, confirming directly with the third party. 2,
Tamba, are you there? Hello? It seems we may have temporarily lost
to answer
Tamba
your
Momoh.
question, the reason why...
Oh, okay, he's still there. Yes, continue, Tamba. We lost you there for a minute.
Yes? Okay, the reason why... I'll read this again. Did you hear what I read?
Yeah, you spoke about verify with a third party. Take it from there, please.
Right. So the reason why the standard said to me, I am not expected to be able to tell whether a document is authentic or not. I am not expected as an auditor. I am not trained to be able to tell that. However, it says when I look at a document and I identify conditions on that document that cause me to believe that the document may not be authentic, or that terms in the document may have been modified but not disclosed to me, the auditor, the possible procedures he has told me to confirm directly. I can tell you, and I can tell the people of Sierra Leone, that the documents that my staff brought to me in that audit verification file, when I looked at them, they did not look authentic. They looked like they have made some changes on the document, but they have not told us that they have made those modifications on the document. Therefore, the standards has directed me that I should go directly to the third party that is purported to have issued that document. That is what we did. And that does not require anybody's permission, because it makes no sense to anyone with common sense that when you're running to verify a matter relating to someone's bad behavior or misconduct, you go and obtain permission for them. I read the standard to you. The ESIs are on the social media. They are out in on internet. ESI, ISA 240, go to paragraph A9, and it says there. So to answer your question, I don't know the consequences of what happened. What I did, I followed the standard. And people have said, oh, I did not go back to the auditors. No, the auditors come to me. I don't go to the auditors. I am the audit partner. I was responsible for this audit. If it comes out bad, I am held responsible. If it comes out good, I am held responsible.
So take us through what happened when you followed up on the third-party verification. You sent emails to the hotels. What was the response?
So the third-party confirmation that we sent out to the hotels, this confirmation, let me just explain, because there's some people who have decided to confuse themselves about what is or what isn't third-party confirmation. Now, there are two main types of third-party confirmations. There is confirmation of account balances. That's ISA 505. There is this confirmation that I've just read. This is ISA 240. The third-party confirmation of account balances, when an entity that you are auditing provides you financial statements, and in this case, the State House, the Office of the President did not provide financial statements. When you're going through those numbers and you come across debtors, creditors, bank balances, you are required to verify these things. And you cannot verify some of them without the permission of the client. For instance, the bank balance. If I'm auditing AYV and I want to see whether the bank balance that AYV has declared on their financial statements, and let's say their bank is Access Bank, if I write to Access Bank will not speak to me. It has to be AYV, who are the signatories to their account, to give me permission or to give Access Bank permission for Access Bank to speak to me. So this is the confusion. I am surprised, perhaps disappointed, that tribunal panelists could not understand this. But let me go and address your issue of the responses. The responses were shocking. They were sad. When I saw them, I did not believe what I was seeing. Let me read what we have read. This is all in the Auditor General's report. Anybody can read it. I'll read, I think this is page 441. This is the Auditor General's report, for 2020. Page 441. When we did the verification, we said, we however concluded that the retirement details for hotels provided were marred by discrepancies, inaccuracies, and inconsistencies. It was also disputed by the concerned third party, whose records show that the bill remains outstanding. This is in the case of a particular issue, but I will address that. So the reports that we received from the hotels was that these were not their receipts. I didn't say. They said that these are forged documents. These are false documents. They are not associated with them. Some went further to say the room numbers are wrong. The amounts they charge, we don't charge this amount. The currency they charge, we don't charge this amount. It was shocking.
And Tamba, so this confirms, this you've just said confirms what Africanist press had been making public. So is it part of your job description to leak that information to any other party other than officers within the Audit Service Sierra Leone before the report was out? Simply put, why did you unprofessionally leak the emails?
No. This I'll come to. Let me deal with Africanist press. First of all, let me make it abundantly clear in this forum that I have never spoken to Africanist press. I have never engaged them. I don't know who they are. I have heard of them. And as a result of this tribunal, I have had to go on their own website for the very first time and find out what they do. And let me tell you what I found out. The Africanist press, some of their publications that they have been making, and I will refer you to a publication of the Africanist press that is dated 10th of January 2021, and the title is President and First Lady Spent Over 10 billion in Lebanon on Lebanon holiday. This report was published by Africanist Press on 10 days after the financial year 2020 had ended. I had not gone, our team had not yet even thought of auditing the office of the president. So if the Africanist Press is putting out information in relation to the visit of the president to Lebanon on the 10th of January 2021, when our engagement letter only went to the office of the president in May 2021, 5 months after Africanist Press, it's only people who have not read or they are slow to understand that can say that I or people from Audit Service. I don't speak for other people. I speak for myself. That is one. Secondly,
yesterday we had Dr. Sylvia Olainka-Blyden. Hold on. Yesterday we had Dr. Sylvia Olainka-Blyden in the studio, and she was saying before yesterday there was a program where the emails were leaked. So who then within your office would have leaked emails that you sent?
Mrs. Sylvia Blyden.
Doctor.
Comments yesterday. Mrs. Dr. Sylvia Blyden's comments yesterday, I'm not going to dignify them with a response for the simple and straightforward reason that she herself, she made it abundantly clear in her opening comments that she's not a competent accountant, she's not a competent auditor, she has never done auditing, she has no idea what she's talking about, and therefore she should not be listened to. So I am not going to say
Tamba, take that as it is. Take that as it is, Tamba. We still have people who follow this conversation who are probably auditors or who are familiar with the standard operating procedure of auditing, who would also need a response from you. The public as well deserves a response from you. How come emails that you sent got leaked to the press? That still remains a valid question for you to respond to.
Okay, so no,
regardless of who's asking the questions.
I just wanted to say I will not address what Mrs. Dr. Blyden has said. Let me go straight to the issue of Africanist Press. The Africanist Press publication that has been trumpeted out there on the 15th of November, 3-4 days after we were suspended. I will read it, and I will read it exactly where it says, in management queries, I'm quoting from their own, this is on their website. In management queries sent to the President's office in early October 2021, audit officers noted that several documents submitted to the President's office, submitted by the President's office to justify travel expenses for FY 2020, including list of per diems and details of alleged procurement-related activities by the President and his delegation while traveling abroad, were verified to be false. This was posted on their website in an article entitled
Tamba,
President...
That post you just read excerpts from... Hold on, that post you just read excerpts from is in public domain. It's available for people. Hold on.
Yes.
It's available for people to go read. What's not available is the question I just asked you that you've not answered. How come an email or emails you sent were now leaked to the public? It's a question you've not answered.
Has already said the sources of his information. You look at the Africanist Press, the sources are there. Queries that, it says, in management queries sent to the office of the President in early October. Audit officers noted, so that is a source. He has put it there clear. I have never given any information to the Africanist Press. In relation to the documents that have been circulating in social media, let me make it clear that the Attorney General himself submitted to the tribunal panel those receipts. I gave it in my evidence, in my response. Let me explain. When we sent out,
what's your relationship to Chernobyl, the known individual behind Africanist Press?
I don't know him. I've never seen him. I've never spoken to him. I've never had any exchanges with him. I've never even listened to anything that he has said. But let me just address this issue. When the audit query that we sent to the Office of the President in October, I think this is what Africanist Press is saying. In that query, or that verification report, we addressed it only to the Office of the President. When the Office of the President was responding to that query, a query between an auditor and an audited entity, they copied the Clerk of Parliament, they copied the Speaker of Parliament, they copied the Inspector General of Police, they copied the Attorney General, they copied the Chief Justice, they copied the ONS, they copied Financial Intelligence. So they themselves have started copying people. I'm not saying any of those people are responsible for putting out information, but this is where our correspondence within the Office of the President started. Then, when we were responding to the correspondence, we also copied all of them and gave them all the details that we gave the Office of the President, since they wanted all these people to be aware of a matter that was transpiring only between the auditor and the audited entity. That's what we copy. But let me go further. When I submitted my response to the tribunal in January of 2023, I provided them all the evidence that I had in my possession. At the same time, I am aware that the Attorney General, when he brought witness Mr. Jajua from the Office of the President, he brought all these receipts. In fact, he brought even more embarrassing receipts or retirement details. After we have verified one of the hotels that said that payment has not yet been made, the acting Auditor General, for reasons only him can explain for himself, decided to do his own verification. Decided to write to the hotel to ask them to verify. The letter that the hotel purportedly wrote to him, verifying, said that they have received payment 1 year before the president went there. That is a false document. That is a lie. The president's office did not pay for any accommodation 1 year beforehand. The verification the Deputy Acting Auditor General made was the one that they should be, he is the one that should be asking to explain that. So whatever is in public media, I have not given, if anybody has any evidence that
Tamba,
I gave African,
what is
this?
To say
it,
Tamba,
Press,
Tamba, what is this? Tamba, what is this about to you? Is it about politics being used to fight against the presidency or something else? What is this to you?
Sorry, I don't personally know the president. In fact, he will not remember this. The first time I actually spoke to him, we met at a petrol station. The president was going on the campaign trail in Kono. I was coming from my hometown in Kono. And we met at Berry Junction petrol station. I remember he was standing there. He was, the boys came around and said, hey, that time he was a flag bearer campaign. He said, wow, I can't tell what I do. I said hello to him, sir. I got my field. He got his field before me, and he left. I don't know the president from Adam other than I know him as my president. We elected him in 2018, and he's my president. I don't have anything against anyone. I don't know anyone. I'm not a politician. I do not belong to any political parties. The political parties that we hear in Sierra Leone, I don't see their ideology. I don't understand it. So I have no I'm a professional, true and true. I have done this job for 20 plus years.
As the professional that you are, true and true, doing your job this long. Tamba, how do you explain avoiding to investigate the Freetown City Council?
So Freetown City Council is audited.
Transform Freetown project.
I told you initially, yes, Freetown City Council There are 4 deputies that support and work with the Auditor General. My former colleague, who is now the acting Auditor General whilst Lara has been on suspension, is responsible for was responsible for the audit of Freetown City Council. He has been doing that work even before I joined the Audit Service Sierra Leone. Every year, he has audited Freetown City Council, and he is responsible for the financial statement audit. Every year, Freetown City Council has produced financial statements. Every year, those financial statements have been audited by Mr. Abdul Aziz, the acting Auditor General now. That is his profile. That's his main portfolio. I am not responsible for Freetown City Council's audit. And Freetown City Council, I am not their spokesperson, but they have always submitted their financial statements. They have always been audited, and Mr. Aziz has been the one who has always signed their financial statements and their audit opinion. I'm surprised that he's not suspended. He's not standing behind bars and answering questions. I'm sitting here, people are asking me questions about an audit client that is not mine. Asking me about the Sierra Leone police, I will talk to you. Asking me about the immigration department, I will talk to you. Asking me about parliament, I will talk to you. Now we are talking about the office of the president. I will talk to you. I am not responsible for the audit of Freetown City Council. Mr. Aziz, they should go and ask him. The issue of transformation project or whatever, all these projects, they have financial implications. And according to the accounting standard that Freetown City Council uses, they are supposed to disclose them in their financial statement. They have been disclosing them in their financial statement, and Mr. Aziz has been giving them a clean bill of landing or giving them a clean report all these years. The only thing that I did with Freetown City Council, in fact, it was not just with the Freetown City Council. During one of my performance audit exercises, I wanted to assess what has been the impact of donor-funded projects in 4 city councils. So we selected Freetown City Council, Bo City Council, Kenema City Council, and Makeni City Council. And we asked them to submit some information documents, and they've submitted. I have had one of my junior colleagues come from the office and say, oh, they asked me to sign a particular report, or no, I was not there. Then they said I instructed them to take the report to requesting for document from the Freetown City Council, and the Auditor General refused. The Auditor General has already explained this. Nobody needs, the gentleman who came to talk about this, he was an assistant Auditor General at the time. He assigned a similar request. This is just a simple request for document. And they said, oh, it is in the Tribunal's report that I said that the Auditor General, the Mayor of Freetown City Council has credibility. It's my business. I don't know about her. I don't know her personally. Whether she has credibility or not, that's not on my issue. They should go and ask the audit partner responsible for Freetown City Council to find out whether she has credibility or not. The only person that will speak like that is someone who is not aware of ISA 240. Because they have no understanding of professional skepticism.
How do you also justify suspiciously resigning at the start of the tribunal's investigation?
Well, it's not suspiciously. I did not resign suspiciously. I was suspended on the 11th of November. On the 20th of December, on the instructions of the Auditor General, the acting Auditor General, Mr. Abdul Aziz, and the then chairman of the Audit Service Board, one Mr. Rogers, my salaries were halved. My basic salary were halved. They took 50% away. They took all of my bonus away. Bonuses were paid that year. I was not paid. This is in 2021, December. All of my allowances, both in cash and in kind, were taken from me. So then I proceeded. I thought this is maladministration, because my conditions of service says, even if the audit service suspends me, they can place me on half pay, i.e. half my basic pay, but without prejudice to my allowances. These are not conditions I wrote for myself and brought for the audit service to sign as my employer. It is my employer who wrote it for me and got me to sign it. So I signed an agreement with the Audit Service Sierra Leone that said, when they suspend me and they want to put me on half pay, They can, but they cannot stop or take away any of my allowances. So I went to the office of the Ombudsman in January 2022, and I complained. And the office of the Ombudsman did a good job, did a thorough review of the matter. I provided all my evidence. He engaged, I suspect, the Audit Service Sierra Leone for them to provide their own evidence. And on the 12th of May, 2022, the Ombudsman wrote what I thought I would never hear about the Audit Service Sierra Leone. The Ombudsman said the Audit Service Sierra Leone, according to ESI P10, they are supposed to be an exemplary organization, and that they have failed to do so. And failed, this is, by the way, the Ombudsman is a client of the Audit Service Sierra Leone. The Ombudsman found that they have breached my employment contract. So I no longer have a contract with the Audit Service Sierra Leone because they have breached my employment contract. And he gave them 14 days, as per his powers in the Ombudsman Act, for them to return certain things to me. All my allowances. I will also add, and I've mentioned this in my response to the Tribunal's report, on the 28th of December 2021, on the instruction of Mr. Abdulaziz, the Acting Auditor General, and the Chairman of the Board, a truck, 2 trucks full with police officers arrived in my compound, surrounded my home. They said they came to collect the official vehicle that was assigned to me as transport allowance. All of that, the Ombudsman ruled against the Audit Service Sierra Leone. The Ombudsman reminded them of their responsibility as employer. He gave them a quotation of their agreement with me, and the Audit Service refused to comply with the recommendations of the Ombudsman. I don't even know whether the Ombudsman is still being audited by Audit Service Sierra Leone, because Audit Service Sierra Leone, the Acting Auditor General, should be ashamed of himself to go and audit the Ombudsman when he gave him recommendations as Ombudsman. He did not act on those recommendations. I don't know whether he expects the Ombudsman to act on his own recommendations if there are any observations that you will find in the audit of the Ombudsman.
Tamba Momoh,
so my sister, you asked the question, oh, hang on a minute, let me answer finally. So I said to myself, I have children to look after, I have family to look after. I am not going to sit here being employed by an organization, I think I'm employed by them, when they have already breached my employment contract and they refuse to regularize things, even after a competent authority has announced to them, has advised them to take the appropriate actions. So I resigned. But when I resigned, I said to them in my resignation letter why, and as I've explained, and I've also indicated there that my resignation is without prejudice to the ongoing investigation. So even after I resigned, I continued either in person with my solicitors or in my absence on my behalf, my solicitors have attended all of the tribunal's sittings. So yes, I have resigned from the Audit Service Sierra Leone, and yes, this is the reason why I resigned, because they refuse to comply with the employment contract that I have with them. I am not going to say much on that because we don't know where that will go. I'll put it aside. But if you ask me, I did not hide. I wasn't hiding anything. There's nothing to hide. We have done nothing wrong. I have done nothing wrong. The standard has said that I could verify. I verified. That I don't need permission. I didn't ask for permission. The Constitution is very clear. Section 119, subsection 6. It says, in the conduct of our audit or conduct, let me read it. In the exercise of this function, this is the Auditor General, under this Constitution or any other law, the Auditor General shall not be subject to the direction or control of any person or authority. You will not find this statement in the Tribunal's report. And the Tribunal's report, we are made to believe, was written by people who are lawyers. You will not find this constitutional provision there. So what we did was not wrong. Yes, I resigned from the audit service because I was working for an employer that no longer respected the contract that they had given me. So that is my answer.
Tamba Momoh, we would need to round off this conversation now, which would continue as the situation unfolds. But The tribunal report did not end in your favor as per the recommendations, one of which says that the second respondent, Mr. Tamba Momoh, be removed from the Audit Service Sierra Leone by the Audit Service Board Sierra Leone. Well, you've already resigned, but this leads us with, it didn't go in your favor, it didn't end in your praises. What are your next line of actions?
So, I don't have any line of action. It's the government, it's the state that is taking actions. Yes, I noted the same, that the tribunal shockingly said we should be removed, I should be removed from office, and that I have been found of professional misconduct. I will appeal to the tribunal panel, the landed lawyers that we are heading that panel. Take your tribunal reports, take your evidence, go to the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sierra Leone, lay it on their table, and you say one of your members is not competent to be a professional accountant anymore in this country or anywhere else. Take the same reports to London, take it to the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants, and say to them that one Tamba Momoh of reference number 0128594 is not competent to be a professional auditor or accountant anymore. Strike him off your register. That is when I will know that indeed I have committed professional misconduct. Meanwhile, I will continue to support Supreme Audit institutions. I am doing that at the moment in various capacities. But I will end up with this appeal to believe, in my humble opinion, that the Office of the President has been grossly misled. They have been wrongly advised by people for their selfish reasons who have messed themselves up, and they were trying to cover themselves up, and they thought the best way to do that is to push us away, and they make the country look bad. This was a simple matter between an auditor and an audited entity. We have had similar instances before where we have engaged, we have been called to a meeting. I have evidence of those meetings. People, even in the Office of the President, have called us to meetings. We have dealt with audit observations. There was no need for this hoo-ha. There was no need for it. The Office of the President have been misinformed. And I will appeal to the current Secretary to the President, take a look at those receipts yourself. If your house help you have at home, you send them to Choi Trams and they'll bring you receipts that will look like that. If you accept them, carry on with what you're doing. This is a shame for our nation. Since this has happened, I have engaged various Supreme Audit institutions. There is nowhere in the world where any Supreme Audit institution has received such shoddy documents. It is shocking. It's disgraceful. I rest my case.
Thank you very much, Tamba Momoh. He's been speaking to us on the allegations surrounding his service at Audit Service Sierra Leone when he served as Deputy Auditor General. Well, this is where we'll end today's edition of Wake Up Sierra Leone.